Hey, what's up, Plus Ultra fam? It's me, Plus Ultraman, and today we are for a Dragon Ball discussion. So to preface this video, I just want to start off with a very quick disclaimer. Number one, I am by no means claiming to be a better writer than Akira Toriyama, Toru Taro, or anybody involved in the Dragon Ball Super manga or anime. I'm completely aware that storytelling and writing are very hard things to do. I also have the advantage of hindsight, so I'm by no means trying to make myself seem better or think that I am better. I'm honestly just a very big fan of the series, and I really actually enjoyed the way they actually did do Ultra Instinct. In fact, my favorite fight was definitely Goku versus Kefla, but at the same time, that does not mean that the show was without faults with how they did Ultra Instinct, and I do think that I have a way that they could have done it better. Something fans should always remember, that no matter how much they like something or how much that thing is big or published, there's always room for criticism, but the criticism must be valuable. That means that you have to have valuable criticisms and speak them in a valid and coherent way. So remember, no matter who it is, as long as you're respectful and you're actually speaking facts, there's nothing wrong with correcting somebody, even me. So with that out of the way, let's get into the meat of the discussion. Now I want you to ask yourself, what is Goku's true long-term goal? I'll give you a minute. Most of you would have answered, to get strong or fight strong guy. And to be completely honest, most of you are right if you said that. Goku is always written as a very simple character who, by the end of whatever story arc he's going through, is set back to who he was at the beginning. He never really goes through many changes. That's not to say there aren't some arcs in the series that would have changed him, but usually he is the happy-go-lucky person he started out as. Goku, unlike other shonen protagonists like Naruto or Luffy, don't really have an ending goal in mind. And this is mostly due to Toriyama's writing style. Again, I'm not criticizing his writing style per se or saying that it's bad. I'm simply saying these are the facts of how he writes. Kishimoto and Oda write in totally different ways, and therefore their characters have long-term goals, but it also kind of takes away of air predictability into the story. With One Piece, we know at some point Luffy will become the Pirate King, and with Naruto, we knew at some point he would become Hokage. But with Goku, there was never really any goals stated, and therefore there was a lot of room for his adventures to go out and be broad. But the funny thing about this is, even if you do have a goal stated at the beginning of the series like Naruto and Luffy do, you can still have a broad set of adventures that don't necessarily correlate to what you're trying to accomplish at the end. Again, I'm completely aware this is just not how Toriyama writes. He usually writes by the seat of his pants, and that's part of why we love him so much. But let's look at this from a different universe in which Akira Toriyama had the entirety of Dragon Ball already planned out. And this is where Ultra Instinct comes in. So with that, let's rewind to a much simpler time, when martial arts prowess was the most important thing, and beam struggles weren't even invented yet. Back to a time where finding the Dragon Balls was a much harder task, and Yamcha was actually a powerhouse for the Z Fighters. Now this is a Dragon Ball discussion, but we're going to read it a little bit like it is a what if, so just bear with me. Now, up until the part where Roshi begins training Goku and Krillin, he would not change his writing style very much. It would still be the simple adventure series it was. But finally, one day after long days of training, Roshi would mention his pursuit of a technique called Mushin, or the no-mind state. We're not calling it Ultra Instinct just yet, but Mushin was the original and real-life phenomenon that Ultra Instinct is based off of. Master Roshi was about 300 years old at the start of Dragon Ball, so he would explain that all his life he's been trying to attain this unattainable series of techniques that would allow his body to move and think on its own. That way, Roshi himself could focus on more important things. He revealed to his pupils that the way he had been doing this was by pure determination and repetition. He would continuously train on repeating his moves. That way, his body could learn them. As an athlete, I can tell you that muscle memory really and truly is a real phenomenon, and it is only attained through hours and hours of beating on your craft. But not only that, Bruce Lee, one of the real-world practitioners of Mushin, or at least we think, once said, "I fear not the man who has practiced 10,000 kicks once, but I fear the man who has practiced one kick 10,000 times." This simply means that repetition breeds perfection. The way to truly unlock Ultra Instinct is by ingraining your movements into your body, therefore removing the need for one to think to act. And here's where the major change would happen. Goku would be so engrossed by this idea of never having to think to fight, of only having to fight and just be. He'll believe Master Roshi wholeheartedly on this idea of Mushin, and he'll begin to strive to do it as well. So the first small inkling we'd see of Ultra Instinct, or Mushin in this sense, would be in Master Roshi's fight against King Piccolo. Before deciding to resort to the Mafuba, he would decide to try and dodge Piccolo's attacks. much like Vegeta did against Jiren in the Tournament of Power when he was trying to force himself to use Ultra Instinct. Once finally taking a hit, he would decide to go ahead and use the Mafuba. And after that, I think the rest of that series would follow as suit. Except Goku would probably train a lot more in this instance because he's still trying to unlock Ultra Instinct. I say this because Goku always grows more and grows more significantly when he knows what he's training for. When he's simply just bored and decides to train for no reason, he barely grows much. I also think with the idea of Mushin being in the works, Chi-Chi would be much more inclined to let him, because she never really complains when he does have a valid reason for it. And I think him having a lifelong dream that he wants to fulfill would constitute as a valid reason to her. Now, I'm sure she would make him compromise to where he would still have to get some type of job and make some type of income for the family, but I also think this would result in a much more healthy relationship for the two. At the beginning of Z, and all these emerging foes with stronger and stronger powers and new techniques, I think slowly, very slowly, Goku would start to forget about Mushin. It become less and less important to him. He's discovered the Kaioken technique, and after that, the Super Saiyan technique with all this bells and whistles. And at some point, it would truly fade to the back of his mind. Not to mention, Master Roshi has been long surpassed at this point. He's now realized that it's time to kick back and relax and enjoy his old age. A big drive to Master Roshi in the original Dragon Ball was preparing new martial artists to protect the world. And now that he has more than enough, I think he'd realize it's finally time for him to relax and stop training. And this trend would continue all the way up until Goku meets Beerus and Whis. After unlocking the Super Saiyan God form to defeat Beerus, or placate Beerus, Goku would begin his training with Whis and Vegeta. And here's where Goku would finally receive his true confirmation that Ultra Instinct truly was a thing, or Mushin in this case. But it would now be changed to Ultra Instinct because it was told to Goku by Whis, who is much older and more skilled, and would most likely not be lying about this situation. This would also make a very interesting situation for Goku. For the first time in his life, he would have to make a choice on what he wanted to develop. He could, like Vegeta, decide to keep developing the Super Saiyan God technique to his highest potential and unlock Super Saiyan Blue. Or he could follow his dreams and start training with Whis more and counseling with him so he can unlock Ultra Instinct. And for the sake of storyteller, we're going to say that he decides to follow the Ultra Instinct route. Vegeta, on the other hand, would continue to develop the Super Saiyan Blue technique. Mostly because, number one, Vegeta had no idea what Ultra Instinct was before he even met Whis. And number two, because Super Saiyan was always Vegeta's dream. And once finally achieving it, it was all he wanted to do. This is why he was so eager to continuing to develop the transformation. This would also create a situation in which Goku's highest state would be Super Saiyan God, and Vegeta's would be Super Saiyan Blue. Therefore, Vegeta would be the strongest of the Z fighters at this point in time, which I personally have no problem with. Number one, Vegeta kind of deserves more spotlight, and number two, it's very fun when Vegeta and Goku have separate transformations. So we can now move on to the revival of F arc, and I think at this point in time, nothing will really change because Vegeta was strong enough to take down Frieza, and even after their fight, had Frieza had destroyed the Earth, if Whis had done his do-over, Goku would have still been able to kill him even as Super Saiyan God because Frieza would have been tired, so nothing would have really changed in this situation. The Universe 6 tournament, however, is where a big change happens. Instead of Vegeta taking on Hit first, Goku would have, and in this instance, it would allow Vegeta to come up with a plan to defeat Hit. Or so he thinks, but he'd actually have to go into himself and bring out a brand new power. We would actually see the first instance of Super Saiyan Blue Vegeta evolution, or whatever you call it, that really deep royal blue that he goes into in the Tournament of Power, here against Hit. And for plot reasons, we're going to say that this is enough for Universe 7 to defeat Universe 6. So, moving on once again, we can now move on to the Goku Black arc. And in this arc, we would finally see the first instance of Ultra Instinct Sign, or Omen, whichever you call it. And the reason I've held it back till now is because I think that Ultra Instinct is truly a power that comes in response to a need and not a desire. This would be why Ultra Instinct did not awaken against Hit, because in the Universe 6 tournament, there was truly no danger. The worst thing that could have happened was that Earth would have been moved. If anything, Goku would have preferred this. So no, Ultra Instinct would not have came out at this point in time. But against Goku Black, they had found a true threat. Not only was Trunks' timeline in danger, but so was his. I think Goku at this point would have finally unlocked it. But again, this would not have been enough to take down the big bad of this arc. And besides, Trunks does still need his moment to shine, so Trunks would still take down Fuse Zamasu in this situation. I'm doing this, number one, because the Goku we see in the Tournament of Power is a lot stronger than the Goku we see in the Goku Black arc, at least I think so. And because I don't think that Ultra Instinct gives a power multiplier in the sense that we're used to. At least not like a Super Saiyan transformation, in that when you turn Super Saiyan, all your stats will get increased by 50 or something like that. But thematically, that doesn't really make sense for Ultra Instinct, as the technique is about not trying to think about attacking. So I think the true power increase that comes from Ultra Instinct is the idea that your body is no longer thinking of how much power it needs to put into everything. Therefore, it might be taking off some of the inhibitors it has on itself. Kind of like how the Kaioken works, or the 8 gates in Naruto. You're just releasing the body's limits on itself, and therefore you're hitting harder and moving faster. The only difference with Ultra Instinct is because of the God Key, you're no longer hurting yourself. Or at least that's my headcanon for it. If you believe something different, that's perfectly fine. So after this, Goku returned to Master Roshi and began trying to retrain with him. That way, the two could begin to develop Ultra Instinct more and more. And I think being reminded of this long-forgotten legend by his strongest student would have lit a fire under Roshi. This was actually true. And I think the two would have begun training again once Roshi had eaten one of those herbs and decided his vitality was back and he was much stronger than he'd been for a long time. This would also be a very good explanation for why we had the Ultra Instinct Roshi debacle we had a few weeks ago in the manga. Even though the best explanation for that is that Jiren was just holding back and that Roshi was trying to dodge as hard as he could. That's the only reason that he did dodge. This is the same reason that Jiren didn't kill Vegeta when he hit him. He's just holding back. He can't kill anybody in the Tournament of Power. So with that, we can now fast forward again and finally to the Tournament of Power, where again Master Roshi would have his Ultra Instinct Roshi moment and maybe even bring out Ultra Instinct Omen. Because it should not be a technique that is exclusive to Goku. Anybody who has tried to develop their body to a point of muscle memory should be allowed to access this technique, even though it possibly requires God Key. But either way, this would be how the Tournament of Power ends. It would actually end in the exact same way that it ended the original series. I just wanted to change how Ultra Instinct was introduced and how it was done. So if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and comment, and we'll catch you next Saturday. And remember, always go beyond plus Ultra.